Hey everyone, it's Larry Johnson, your host for A Principles Voices. I've been having a delightful conversation with these two young guys, and they're running this AI thing. They're going to tell you more about it. I met them at a conference in Dallas about I guess it was like 4 or 5 months ago. Preston
Mhm.
Pope and Nick Smith. They could run rings about me with their computer knowledge, even though I'm a graduate engineer, as you know. But I want to get to it right away. Welcome, Preston. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for having us. Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Now,
Yeah, thank you.
you want to give us sort of the thumbnail of what it is you do. I see the name of your company up there, but what is it you do?
hmm Yeah, I'll give mine, and I'm curious. So Nick's so I come from an engineering background as well. Nick's a pastor, and so we have very different takes on our mission. We're in alignment on a lot of things, but I'm curious as to his reflection. So my the way I think of this is we are equipping and empowering the church and ministries in the AI age, to basically take those first safe steps into the AI space. Nick, what's your one sentence?
Yeah, currently TAPOS is about taking your content, whether it's a pastor, content creator, and making them all searchable, shareable, and then hopefully unforgettable. It'll continue to disciple way beyond the person delivering that.
Now, is this encapsulated in a downloadable app, or how is it presented?
Yeah, so we have a web app where you can interact with it. It's mobile friendly, so any
Mm-hmm.
device that you're interacting with it. The biggest way that people end up utilizing our platform, though, is in embedding it on their own church's website or their own ministry's website, and so being
Okay.
basically an extension of their voice and of their content, as well as on the back end side, having a lot of resources and toolkits for the administrators and the staff to be able to generate resources and see insights that they didn't previously have.
All right. So I use Hallow, the devotional app, which
Mhm.
by the way are you familiar with it at all?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't used it personally.
Well, you should look at it. It's very sophisticated, and of course, they spend a lot of money advertising it and all that. But there's a breadth of stuff in there. There are prayers, there are devotionals. And of course, it's Catholic, so there's certain kinds of there's rosaries, all the days. It's all there. You have many different voices, from clergymen to nuns to the likes of Mark Wahlberg and what's his name, Pratt, the actor. um,
Yeah,
Chris
Chris
Pratt.
Pratt. Yeah.
yeah, Chris Pratt. So you can tell what generation I'm in. So anyway, so that's um, they've done a very good job of it, and the I had a friend of mine who's a chaplain of a Christian college, and I said, here, Grant, I want you to listen to this. And one thing he liked about it was and I hadn't thought about the devotionals are recorded in a way they give you plenty of time to respond to them. If they ask you to ponder this or ponder that or pray for this or pray for that, there's plenty of space. He said, "Oh, this is
Mhm.
paced really well. So you're not rushed through it." So, but anyway,
Mhm.
so um, does the church create the content? You create the content? How's that work?
Yeah, so it's taking the church's content that's already been preached. So the sermon works, all week. And then you preach this sermon, and it hopefully falls on some ears who are listening that are actually taking that seed and letting it be implanted in their heart to where they're thinking about it more, applying it. But most of the time, it gets forgotten. And so you take that sermon and you upload it to Tapos, and now it's just a part of your content library that you can search through, ask questions, generate resources to continue discipleship. And so we're essentially taking pastors' content and making it accessible.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Well, are you ordained, Nick?
I am.
Okay. Well, I have a theological education, but I'm not ordained. I was at Yale Divinity School when Henry Nouwen was there, but that's another topic. Um, the of course, I come from a different tradition than you. I'm sure I come from an Anglo-Catholic tradition. So
Okay.
any sermon that's more than 15 minutes, it's done. We're out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
You. Do you mute the mic? The sound guy in the back?
They play
I
play the
mean,
music.
well,
Yep.
the rectors just figured out, no one's listening after 15 to 16 minutes. And
Mhm.
and in many ways that's true, because human nature is such that, and that's before the information age shrunk the attention spans
Mhm.
down to nanoseconds. That's before then. Um, and the other thing, and of course, if you're an expository minister or you prepare it, and I know that to present an idea in a shorter amount of time with fewer words requires
Yes.
Mhm.
more work to get it to the point where it communicates, you know. And when I was in the eighth grade, and yes, I was in the eighth grade at one point, I had an English teacher who would do that. We should give us a writing assignment, and then she'd say, "Okay, do it again in half as many words. Do it again in half." And she would go through two or three cycles. It got really tough, Nick, to
Yep.
do
Mhm.
that, because you had to. Okay, how do I communicate this tersely?
Yeah, it is so difficult on Twitter or X, whatever, to try and communicate your thoughts in how many characters is it? 180 characters?
They've actually doubled it
And
now, but it's
okay.
200. Yeah, if they've doubled it, but yeah, it's still.
So trying to break it down and go, what is the most effective thing that I can communicate and how to communicate it?
Mm-hmm,
Twitter's done a really good job of preparing us on in how to do that.
mm-hmm, yeah.
So
Um, so, is this, you're both the founders of this thing, right?
Mhm.
So tell me about, how did this brainchild come to be? Tell me about that.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of comes back to what we were talking about there before of these sermons that are just out there that are just getting lost. And so I was sitting in a Bible study. This is probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago at this point. And I was sitting there with some guys. We were chatting, talking about some topic, and there was something that we'd recalled vaguely that the pastor had said a couple weeks ago. That was the exact thing that we needed in that moment to minister and to speak into the topic we were discussing. And so at some point we all pull out our phones and we're panning through YouTube. And after like 5 minutes of eight guys panning through YouTube videos trying to find that clip, we just gave up because we're like, it's lost to the treasure trove of these sermon archives. And that was when I realized like it's a travesty. Like we're sitting on just a gold mine worth of amazing Holy Spirit inspired gospel centric truths in these sermon archives and podcast archives and commentaries and all these things that they're just not accessible. And so that was kind of the inspiration. I was like, man, we got to build something better. And so my background is in engineering, and I have a software development firm. And so I was like, all right, let me see if I can tackle this, just kind of as a side project to get started. And so I started building it out. I went to my parents' church that I grew up going to because the vision here was what I would love to have is imagine when I'm sitting there struggling with anxiety or patience in my parenting or whatever you name it, whatever it is, to be able to go, who would I want to go ask advice of? And so, can I craft this round table essentially where I can go take the insights from my parents' church that grew up and informed me as I was a teenager, my church I went to in college, the church I'm attending now, maybe some of these pastors that have spoken into my life throughout my life. Yeah. And Nick's church as
thank,
well, of course.
thank you.
Sorry. And be able to seek wisdom from that round table of trusted voices. And so I started doing that. And when it really, the first moment when I was like, oh man, there's something really here was I was sitting in an Uber and we had just a very, very beta version of the product out there just with my parents' church that I'd grown up going to. They had decades worth of content that we'd brought in from their YouTube channels and trained up the AI on. And I was sitting there and this Uber driver opens up with me that he's recovering from addiction. I personally don't have that in my story, and thank the Lord, but because of that, I don't have the wisdom or the experience to speak into that, in a very meaningful or authentic way. And so what I was able to do though in that
Well,
moment is like, man, I
you could
really
do what the
want to,
Pharisees always do: just condemn him and move on.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, just say,
How
oh,
could
sorry,
you ever
man.
be addicted?
I could just say, hey, I'll pray for you. How about that? And just
Oh,
leave it at
see,
that.
Nick, we were talking about this before he got on. And I said,
Correct.
that unfortunately there's a good stripe of today's evangelicals that would fit into the Pharisaical category
Oh
today.
yeah.
all about judging, all about pat responses,
Mhm.
you know, uh, uh, pardon my French, my shit don't stink, okay,
Yep.
kind of thing. And yet,
Mhm.
what does St. Paul say to us? He says, even our very best efforts are just tawdry and filthy. They so far below what God expects, you know.
Mhm.
And I think some people forget what that word grace means. It means unmerited favor. We didn't deserve any of this. Hello. I said that once. I was in a Bible study. You'll love this, Preston. And I come out of a tradition where there's a big focus on sanctification, you know. And there was this thinking of, well, more or less saying, you know, we're going to get there. I said, oh no, whoa, no, no. What we deserve is hell and damnation. When people looked at me,
Mhm.
I said, what we receive is grace, which is unmerited favor. Of course, the other meaning of that
Mhm.
word would be in the monarch, the ear of the monarchies. You know, the monarch gave you grace in a situation. He would give you unmerited favor. Maybe you didn't deserve it. Maybe you did commit that crime, but he had the power to give you grace. You see, it's the same. It's same application there. So yeah, but I liked it, Nick. He caught you. That's okay. Keep going.
And you're exactly right, though. And that's the whole point is like there's so much of the church today, and I'm guilty of this myself, where I'll just listen and consume on Sunday, and then just go out through the rest of the week and you're like, oh, I checked off my box for the week. So I can go off. I don't have to engage with the culture. I don't have to engage with my Uber drivers. I can just give them the cursory, oh yeah, sorry, man, I'll pray for you. Instead of,
Oh,
clearly God was
oh,
working in that moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly
Yeah.
God was
Mm-hmm.
working in that moment there, and so wanting to be able to speak into that. And so what I was able to do in that moment was pull up Tapos and say, hey, give me some advice on just ways to speak authentically, gospel truth into someone recovering from addiction. And it didn't give me a script. I could have asked it for a script, but that's not what I was going for. The
But
point is I just want
he
something to
gave
help
you
me
heartfelt
guide the
advice.
conversation.
He gave you
Exactly,
heartfelt
yeah.
advice. And this was
Well,
an
Con
Uber driver.
conversations to
more than
avoid.
that, it gave him biblical advice. It wasn't
Mhm.
just pulling at heartstrings. It was rooted in scripture and
Yeah,
in
because based on this church's content, they've had freedom ministries, they've had sermon series where
So
they've kind
this
of, they've
so
gone
this
through.
Uber driver was sitting in, driving you around, and
Mhm.
you say, you know, this is what I'm doing, and out comes this.
Well, we just started talking about life. Like,
Well,
I
I
didn't
know,
go
but
into
my
the
point
conversation.
is,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was no
Mhm.
accident. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
you know,
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's just, it's like, here's here's why though. You made yourself available to this man.
Yep.
Mhm.
You didn't just, you know, dismiss him or do like when I was living in New York. The last thing you want to do is talk to the damn taxi driver. You just want to get there. You know, you got too much
Yeah.
going
Mhm.
on in your life, you know, and Ubers are a little friendlier. You're not sitting in some hole in the back of a checker cab with this thing up between you, but still, you know, it's you can certainly keep that distance
Now,
from.
Larry, do you think it's Uber drivers are nicer, or is it just New York versus Texas?
I'm
Is
not
it
going
Southern
there. I'm
charm?
not going there. You know, just don't get
You
me
said we could talk
started.
anything.
All right, you know, it's just, you know, see, Texans have one thing in common. They all have very, very, very large heads. Um, Everything's bigger in Texas, you know. Ooh,
Bigger, yeah.
oh, you know.
Did you know the Texas state motto is not everything is bigger in Texas? It's actually friendship. Can you believe that?
A
It's
little
friendship.
ironic there. Yeah.
We have a soft heart.
Well, and yes, I mean, you take, it's like anything else. It's like, you know, New Yorkers get blasted for stuff that is just simply, you know, overdone. Texas do the same thing. You know, I'm
Well,
not
we
a
all
Nick.
ride our horses.
You do all wear your horses to work, right? Um,
Always. Yeah.
and wear cowboy boots everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Although I was in Dallas in April and attending a conference, and there was a man. I had one of my best friends in college lives there, and so him and his wife took me out to dinner one evening. We went to Fort Worth, you know, and there were some really fancy cowboy boots and fancy outfits down there. I tell you, and yeah.
Amen.
And I live in Idaho, so I have cowboy boots. You know, I have those things. And my wife is a horsewoman, so I've learned to ride. Nick, I was definitely Billy Crystal when we started, and I knew that I had I had made it. When she told my sister-in-law, I don't have to worry about him falling off anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I remember my big thing, I always wanted to do it, but the big thing I learned was riding a horse is a cooperative venture between you and the animal. It's, you
Mhm.
have to collaborate together to make it happen. It
Yeah.
isn't just giving the horse commands and hoping for the best. You know,
Mhm.
but so it was an Uber driver. I'm still
Mhm.
fascinated by, we miss so many opportunities when we don't have, when we don't take time, or we don't just kind of say what could happen here. What's, and then this is something that actually, well, I think annoy would be too strong a word, but certainly it's something that my wife doesn't always feel comfortable with, because whenever we travel, whether it's in a hotel or in an elevator car or at the airport, I'm just always talking to people, total, complete strangers. I'll say, hey, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
me
blah,
too.
blah, blah, blah. And you learn some really great things, by the way, Nick. You do. I mean, and more often than not, people really want to engage you in conversation. Um, and of course, with a little humor, it always works, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so that but see, that's, you have to be open to possibilities, and that's what I tell her. You got to be
Mhm.
open to possibilities. She's in finance, Nick, can you tell? um
My
and,
my wife's the exact same way. Type A, she's a pediatrician, will not talk to strangers, and
mm.
she gets so annoyed with me because I talk to everybody.
Ah, okay, so that's how it got started, was you were in there
Mhm.
and in this thing, and then how did the two of you hook up with each other? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so we go way back. We when I was in San Antonio, we were in the same Bible study together. And so Nick was leading that Bible study then, and so we stumbled along through Nick as he was learning the ropes. But no, our families are real close. We have kids around the same age. We go on vacation together. So it was as I started building this thing out. Nick, I'll let you tell the story of when I called you with the idea.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So, yeah, let me clarify some things that Preston just said. Our wives are close and our children are close, and Preston's all right.
We tolerate each other. Yeah.
Yeah, we totally, yeah. So, no, Preston called me and he's like, dude, what do you think of this idea? And I go, okay, give it to me. And, Preston and I talk a lot about ideas. So,
This happens often. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Usually
So,
they go nowhere.
so he's like, man, could you imagine having all of your sermons accessible and public and shareable? And I'm going, man, that sounds awful.
It could be this. It
I,
could be the seventh level of hell, Nick, depending on what kind of.
yeah, I was like, I don't post on YouTube. I don't have social media. I don't want anyone hearing, like what if I say something heretical or so?
All the
Uh,
F-bombs he drops in
yeah,
his sermons. Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, you
Um,
would be the first person. Let me tell you, if that's the worst thing you do, Nick, that's nothing. Okay.
I've seen some pretty bad things. So
Well,
what Preston didn't know.
I don't want to interrupt. That a lot of people in our acquaintance think that taking God's name in vain is uttering the oath, but it's
Yeah,
not. In Hebrew,
yeah,
taking God's name in vain is actually using the name of God to feather your own nest for
yep,
your own personal gain. Okay.
yeah,
So in our world of evangelicals, I'm a Christian plumber, or I'm this, or I'm that. Ugh, that's what that means. You're invoking the name of Christ to help you in your business.
yeah,
Self. What they're talking about, and you know that. But
Mhm.
you say GD, and people just kind of like, oh my God, they just go nuts. And that's not really
yeah,
what it is. That's not a very
yeah,
pleasant thing to say, but that's not what we're talking about. So
Mhm.
anyway, he's sharing this idea on you. I want to hear this.
yeah. And so what Preston didn't know was my dad had just told me that he was going to retire from pastoring for 20 years after 20 years of service. Um, and so I was like, man, 20 years, let's say he's preached 40 to 50 times a year. That's a
Mhm.
thousand sermons. Where are
Yes.
they? Um, and so hearing Preston go, could you imagine having all this searchable? I'm going, man, I could have my dad's wisdom and, I don't even have to talk to him anymore. I have all his content. Um, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I love it,
And
Nick.
so,
You're so yourself. I love this. I just
yeah,
love it.
so jump. So being able to jump on the platform, take my sermons, take my dad's sermons, and then now with my two sons, being able to hand all that over to them when they're, of age and having grandpa and dad's wisdom spoken over them and used was, I mean, how do you pass up on an opportunity to do that? And so there are just a bunch of light bulbs going off of going, man, it could be used for this and this and this discipleship and this. And then getting my hands on the product and being able to shape and go, pastors want this, pastors need this, and then watching Preston make it come to life is every day it's exciting right now.
Mhm.
So
And
So
the beauty
then,
of it is, we're not seeking to replace Nick's dad. We're not seeking to replace the pastor, but there's such a bottleneck there. Like Nick's dad only's got
oh,
so much time in a
I
day.
agree.
Yeah.
So then, let me get this straight. You are taking existing content and customizing it for a custom use, meaning this is congregation specific.
Mhm.
yeah, so
Okay.
our heart is for the congregation. Our heart, I'm a pastor, I love pastors, but essentially it's going, you can use this product and you should, but we want to equip the saints for ministry and have more Uber stories to where people are actually being used by God in events where they're able to minister and
Mhm.
feel equipped to do.
So then, let's say I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Let's say I'm a minister at a parish, and I'm pretty damn good expositor. And how would you? So these sermons have to be captured in some way at the front end, correct? There's a deliberate attempt to record them, and then they're transcribed, transmitted, simply copied? How does it work?
Yeah, so we have a couple of ingestion mechanisms. So if your stuff's recorded, if it's on YouTube, we can auto pull from that. So we can auto pull from a playlist every 30 minutes. So it's very simple. If a lot of churches
So,
put their stuff on
so
YouTube.
how? So you're telling me a lot of churches now put their stuff on YouTube.
Yep.
Now, would
That's
this
Yep,
be
they
pretty
do.
much evangelicals, or would it include Catholics?
I would say
Uh,
mostly evangelicals. I would say I can't speak to the Catholic side of it, but that's
mhm.
just one mechanism. There's also you can just drop the recordings into a drive that we pull from. It can be a private drive. You can upload the PDFs. You can upload just the transcripts of the documents. Either way, we will transcribe it. So if it's just the raw audio of the sermon, that's more. Nick started recording his, I think, on video now, but previously it was just he would just record it on his phone
yeah,
or
I've gone
someone's,
through
his wife's phone or something.
yeah, I've gone through every step. So the first 3 years I didn't record anything. So I just uploaded my PDF notes and put it on TAPOS, and now it has access to all of that. And then I
So
started
this would
recording
so
just on
these would not be voice; it would be text that people could.
just
eh,
text.
And then, of course, because of the algorithm, the text can be searched, but contact terms, key terms.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, more than just searched also. Whenever you ask a question so we want to lead out with trust. And so whenever you ask a question, we show you every source we pulled an answer from. And so then you can see all of the sources. Hey, we pulled from a sermon 6 years ago, 17 years ago. We pulled from these PDF notes, from this book, whatever it is. And then the user can actually go and click on the actual um, content that was uploaded, and they can see my PDF notes right then and there, or
The
they can see
primary
the book, or
source.
they,
Hmm.
yeah.
So
Um, so
this is sort of a mini large language model, sort of a mini AI application. That's what this is.
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly. It's
All right.
essentially training up your own personalized AI for your congregation, but also you can also access third-party content as well. So for example, Bible Project has been extremely generous and offered up their entire corpus of material as a third-party source. So think about like a small church plant. They started like last week. So they have no sermons. They have no library to train up their own AI
Now
on.
Nick looks pretty competent to me. All right.
Mhm.
He looks pretty
Some days.
competent to me. Now, but I suspect that you don't wear vestments, right, Nick? I see. He'd be a lot more what's the word? Um believable if he had a surplice and chalice on. Okay, surplice and cassock. Okay, he's the dude. I can listen to what he has to say, but that comes out of my background, Nick. Okay, it's like
yeah,
you got to have the right clothes here for this for any job, and but
Sometimes I wear shorts and boots when I preach. I'm
shorts
just,
and
I'm
boots.
just
Did you really have to tell me that? All right.
Tank
And
top and a vest.
here I was learning to respect you. I mean, come on.
That was
It,
your
it,
mistake.
at least you're not in boxer shorts. That would be the ultimate
yeah.
worst.
Well, you don't
Okay.
know. You only seen
Yeah.
half of.
You like this guy? You like this
Uh,
guy?
I told you he's decent. He's all right.
This is half of our conversations. Just this.
Well, I'm really pleased that you feel that comfortable. This is great. That means I'm getting this straight stuff. All right. I love it. Okay. So you do this congregation by congregation.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's say that a congregation wanted to employ you or use this. Would they just call you up, Preston, or call you up, Nick, and say, I'm interested? How would the process unfold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
You either go to www.tapos.app and there's a get started button, 7-step widget, and then your account's created, upload some content, and start engaging with the AI. Or you schedule a call with me and we jump on a call and we walk through everything.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
usually the best way. Our product, to be honest, is a bit of a fire hydrant in terms of feature sets and functionality. We do have an exciting update. This is first time this is public actually. Is we have officially merged products with a company called Live AI, and the founder Eric Kidwell. And so there's a lot of benefits that's coming from that. But the reason I mention it is it's a whole fresh uplift on kind of the design and the UI to make it a lot more accessible for someone to just sign up and be able to walk through the process themselves, kind of in a self-service manner. The current way I would recommend with Tapos would be to actually call Nick or I, and we help you set it up, just because there is a lot of
Okay.
functionality and feature sets in it to
And
navigate.
then it's I guess it's priced on the basis of the number of users, and the
Yeah.
size of the content. How much is there?
It's mostly based on content size, and so we've intentionally. And I'm glad you asked this question. We've intentionally not priced the features of the larger plan different than the features of the smaller plan. And the reason why is we want the church plant to have the same feature sets and functionality as the megachurch. So the pricing tiers are purely based on the content size. So how much content you want to upload, how many different knowledge bases of content, and then how many different AIs do you want to have? So do you want to have one AI that's purely external facing that you have on your website, one AI that's purely internal, that's maybe just for your staff and your administrators, and your pastors that can use, and maybe that has a little bit of different content that it's being able to pull from. So purely just based on essentially usage. So the amount of AI calls and interactions that are being done, and the size of the library that you want to store.
And then we do have a free version also
Yeah.
for churches that, can't. Uh, you may be a church plant, you may have $20 in your bank account. There's a free
All right.
version that we want to serve you guys with also.
Okay. All right. So, all right, you guys are young. Well, in my view, you're young. Neither of you have seen your 40th birthday yet. Am I correct?
You're correct.
All right. That's young. So that what what's I mean, we're just projecting, but what's the future look like for you guys? I mean, you're a gearhead. I'm a former electrical engineer. You're a minister. I did go through theological school. You're coming out of two different sides of your brain. You obviously get along with one another. You have common ideas of kind of how life is set up in the world. So, what would you like to do? Say in 10 years, where would you like to be? If I'm not asking too much.
No, no, I love it. Um, so I'm gonna answer this a little zoomed out first, but I promise I will get to your question. So I mean, where I see us being at, just collectively as the world, is at a very interesting inflection point with this AI revolution. We're basically
It
coming out of
is.
the information age that shrunk all of our, attention spans, but also provided just a massive amount of information. Some good, some bad, but none of that is digestible. We are
Mm-hmm.
moving into this AI age where that all the information from the information age is now able to be accessed and utilized for a variety of different things, good and bad. And so, really, where I feel kind of a passion, I'll say, in this moment is to try and help the church and ministries navigate this space, which means things like Sora 2 dropping this week, starting to help churches navigate, hey, what does it look like to integrate that? And so TAPOS really sits as kind of a foundational thing to build AI functionality and toolkits on top of. And so I could see, I mean, I would love it if, Lord willing, we are able to continue moving forward and helping to build a foundational infrastructure for churches and ministries to basically utilize and harness the AI age for the amplification of the kingdom. So I would love to keep doing this. I also wouldn't mind just gardening in my backyard. We moved out of the country, and so that's been a pastime of mine. And so
Okay.
I also build AI apps, but I wouldn't mind just
Well,
sitting out gardening in my backyard.
that latter option probably implies some sort of exit strategy, Preston. Um,
Potentially, yeah. That's not necessarily the
mhm.
goal where we're building towards, but that we're open to something like that if the opportunity came.
Okay.
No,
Well,
no political career, Preston, nothing like that.
I think those have died. Those visions have died on the vine. Nick
Maybe
and I used
beyond
to,
the 10-year mark.
maybe that's the 20-year mark. Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, AI is something that is has a lot of potential either way.
Hmm.
And there's a book you guys ought to read. It's called Cybernetics, Cybernitics, by Norbert Wiener. And then Norbert Wiener was a electrical engineer actually at MIT, and this was written in the 50s before any of this came along, and he was foreseeing a lot of this. And
Hmm.
it's pretty it's scary, some of the things, some of the scenarios he paints. Um,
Hmm.
and he tells the story of the monkey's paw. Have you ever heard of the story of the monkey's paw?
I don't think I have. I mean, I
Well,
know what a
I
monkey's
will.
paw is, but
I will let you Google that. This,
okay.
it's the story of the monkey's paw, and but I encourage you to read that book. It's one of the really stark early on, and this is from a mathematician, and he
Hmm.
foresaw a lot of what we're seeing now, um, and so that it's a little book. It's not real big. I don't know. I don't think I have it in here. I do have it. I think it must be in the other room, I think, but I do have it. But I would encourage you to get it. And that if that doesn't raise the hair up off your head, nothing will. Okay.
Hmm.
Because you're seeing the confirmation of a lot of the things that were put
Yeah.
into print 65, 70 years ago. Okay.
Hmm. Now,
So,
the potential here for this to go very south is very real, which is why I think Nick and I, yes, we enjoy what we do. Don't get me wrong, we have fun, but there's also a sense of urgency in that unless this is crafted in a way that is intentionally generous and intentionally gospel aligned, teens, everyone really, I feel like at this point uses AI to go answer questions. As you've got teens going out there asking, "Hey, can I have sex with my girlfriend?" to ChatGPT, and the
you know,
response that you get
see,
back is, "Hey, that's a
this
gut
is
feeling. It's up to you."
this is generational. I would never ask a friggin' machine life questions. Excuse me. I
Hmm.
mean, hello, because
But the younger generation, they are. They
well,
they
see,
are in droves.
somebody had to load those options into that machine. It didn't think on its own. It's whatever has been loaded in there, as you know. And for me to like, oh, I can't believe this. Now, I've just recently begun to use any kind of AI because mainly my sales guy said, Larry, I know you're a superb writer, blah blah blah. I don't use it to write, but what it can do if you just put a few things out there, it can give you some new takes on terms that you've not
Mhm.
thought of. Okay, because you get into boxes, and it was pretty good with that. I
Yep.
use Chat GPT, excuse me, but to ask life questions and expect an authoritative answer, hell no. God.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
mean,
But so many people are like,
well,
and that's the thing, and it's only going to keep growing as it gets more realistic, and the voice is a bit like it's moving that direction, and so it's we're at this inflection point where it has to be very carefully crafted and guided, and the church needs to be on the forefront of, hey, how do we utilize this in a trusted, in a gospel centric and aligned way that is
Mhm.
aligned with the core Christian beliefs.
Have you familiar with the case a few months ago where this man who was a semi-retired data expert lived in Connecticut, and he was talking to this AI thing, and it convinced
Mhm.
him that his mother was trying to kill him, and it was all fictional. The guy's paranoid, so he kills his mother and commits suicide.
yeah,
Mhm.
All of the
Yeah.
basis of whatever this bot was telling him. Oh my God, that's
yeah,
scary. It's
The danger,
well,
though. I mean, that's the danger. Is
and
if
he
it's
wasn't. He was in his
unchecked.
50s. This man was in his
Mhm.
50s. Yeah, he should have known
yeah.
better. I don't think he was all that tied down to begin with. But anyway, um,
But still, I mean, the point is, there's so many like people like that, like, and it's so without this unchecked. So can we provide? Can we as the church provide a lamppost where someone, hey, maybe I'm not able to connect with a minister right now. Maybe I'm not willing to do that. But hey, I can go to this church's website and I can ask questions and know that the sources and the responses are going to be grounded in truth and actually tied to real sermons or real podcast or real commentaries from that church as a
see,
trusted resource as
see
opposed to
that to
just
me,
passing.
excuse me, that to me is the real power of this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not in simply searching and parroting back someone's words,
Mhm.
so that Nick can prepare his next sermon next week without too much effort. Um, but I had to say that, Nick. I know how that works. Anyway, so I have to tell you about my one of my well, I'll tell you later because it's taking up too much time. But my you've taken biblical Greek, Koine Greek, correct?
I no, I'm not a what's the word I'm looking for? I have not been to seminary. I've only done my religious studies degree from a liberal college.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I went to
Oh,
theological school and I took both
yeah.
biblical languages. And the way they teach Koine Greek, the street Greek of the first century, is they give you a grammar and then you use the Greek New Testament. And then you translate certain pieces of that. And one thing you learn very quickly is that you see the differences in the style and sophistication of the biblical authors much more starkly than you do in the English translations. For instance, the simplest work in the New Testament is the Johannine material. John has a very simple vocabulary, simple sentences. And then at the other end, you had the work of St. Paul, which was a very complex vocabulary and compound sentences. You could just see it. There are two different people that wrote this, and they obviously used starting with the simple stuff first. Okay, well, I was at Yale, I told you, and then it was a 5 night a week class, and they assign you every night. Well, you learn very quickly that the English version that is the most literal of any of them is the New American Standard. Just word for word, no idiom introduced, no extra phrases, nothing. Okay. So on this one particular evening, this has been a few years ago, I decided instead of doing my translation, I wanted to go to Harry's bar with my friends. So I went to Harry's bar with my friends. And the next morning, in a class of around 12 or 13 people, and this was back in the days when, well, what is that? I mean, this is for big boys and big girls, and either you fit in or you don't. That's just their whole attitude. And I, my teacher, Childs was one of the top two scholars in the world in this subject, and so he starts off, and everyone was by their never called you by your first name. Mr. Johnson, would you start us in our recitation this morning, please? Well, I swear I wasn't more than 3 words out. And I cribbed it, of course. And he just announces to the class, it's obvious Mr. Johnson came unprepared. Mr. Jones, will you continue? Just cuts me off and goes back. And he was saying to me, don't ever, ever do that again. Just don't show up, you know?
Yeah.
So this was a take no prisoners at a place, and I felt like I was the dumbest person there, Nick, let me tell you. But it was that way. But yeah, but that's it's like there, whoa. And so, but anyway, I like this. I like this very much. So I may want to do another one of these with you. Do you have
Yeah.
is there a case study that you could pull up and we could make a whole podcast out of? May you change the names to
Absolutely.
protect the guilty. I mean, um, but well, if someone wanted I mean, this will be published with a bio, of course, but if someone wanted to get in touch with you, um, where they, what email, what website, where should they go?
Yeah, if you want to reach out, so our email is hello@tapos, TAPOS .app, APP. So hello@tapos.app. You can also just go to our website and book a demo. That'll be with either me or Nick. So you're getting straight to the founders there.
Okay.
So we love we it brings us such joy to walk through people through the product and show them what it can do and just see the light bulbs and the eyes light up of like, oh wow, that solves this problem, and like the potential for what this can do. It's such an encouragement, and it's really why we do this, is to help equip and empower the church through this. So
Okay. And where did the name Tapos come from?
yeah, great question. I'm gonna tell you the original name. I think you'll enjoy this. Uh,
Nick's
so
enjoying this.
oh
He's
yeah, and because
enjoying
Nick
this.
knows it. So before
I
Nick
still
was
like the
involved, I
first
won't
name.
throw Nick under the bus with
I
this one.
still
He
like
was
the first name.
he was this was before him. So when it was just me kind of ideating on this, I love the name Sophia, like the idea of Sophia, the wisdom there of the Greek, right? Obviously,
Oh, I know.
I'm the engineer.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
all of
but
us
so I
ancient
like Sophia.
people.
I was like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, how can we use that, incorporate that in? And so I had like Marrow Sophia, which I think like I don't remember what Marrow stood for, but then I was like, I don't like that. And so I was like, all right, what about like find Sophia, seek Sophia? And so for a while there, I was running with like the operating name of like seek Sophia. So we'll go seek Sophia. And then I told my wife that, and I was like, yeah, I think seek Sophia is going to be the name of the app. And she just stops and was like, no.
No.
That's a Russian dating site is what you're building right there. The name Seek Sophia, it's all I will ever think is just a Russian dating site. And so from that moment on, I was like, okay, we got to find something new. So
Seek Sophia.
uh,
This is what is it? Mail order bride. And
that's
they
right.
show up.
We might need to
They
buy that domain and then redirect it because I think the
Yeah.
marketing campaign there
Well,
is
I'm
strong. Yeah,
serious. If there's anything you want to try to eliminate, you buy the domain and make it go to
that's right.
because well, 'cause, the people do that all the time. These
Mhm.
women want to get out of Eastern Europe in a bad way, and then they got this wealthy Texan who wants them to come to Texas to get married. Man, they'll show up. You know, how many movies have been done on that theme? Okay, so
Yeah.
anyway, so then
The real
Tapos.
name though. Yeah, so the real name came from, so the idea is you know, we've used the metaphor of like a treasure trove of wisdom that we're sitting on, but also, the way I think about this as well is like, hey, we have these threads of wisdom that are sitting out there, these sermons, these podcasts, these threads of wisdom sitting out there. And so, what would it look like to weave those together into a tapestry of truth or a tapestry of wisdom that we can wrap around ourselves as we actually go out into the day? So instead of just listening and consuming on Sunday, let's actually take those threads of wisdom and wrap around ourselves and go and you go into the world and utilize and make disciples with and equipped and empowered by the wisdom of the church that we're attending or the sources that we've brought in. And so tapos means comes from tapestry of logos, so tapestry of wisdom or truth, kind of a
Very
mashup
good.
of the two. And so you can kind of see in the logo, we may actually change the
I
logo,
see it.
but
Yeah.
it's kind of like a
Okay.
loom, like kind of the
All
pin of a
right.
loom with the
All
threads of
right.
the tapestry underneath.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm going to call it. I'm going to close now, but we're going to do this again. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to use an example. We're going to go through an example. All right.
okay.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the audience today and those of you who've taken a little time to share with us in this. And I certainly appreciate Preston and Nick doing this. Well, they're really cool dudes, and that says a lot, if if you're not having fun, guys, it isn't life, right?
What are you doing?
You,
What are you
you,
doing?
you're going to have fun. So, and they're also very serious at the same time. Thank you very much for spending your time today with us. Um,
Okay,
and
thank you. We appreciate it.
audience next week, somebody else with somebody else to learn. Thank you.